Issues like raising Indian investment in Bangladesh and vice versa, improving trade-related infrastructure, devising a mechanism for addressing trade disputes, removing non-tariff barriers are all crucial for developing our bilateral relations. These issues have also gained prominence with the coming into force of SAFTA from 1st July 2006. SAFTA will provide tremendous opportunity for Bangladeshi garment manufacturers to look to India as an attractive and growing market. With expected boom in retailing in India, rising disposable income and brand consciousness, the Indian Global mentioned that exhibitors at this show are amongst the leading names in yarn and fabric sector in India, whose products command a premium in the world markets. All the exhibitors are eagerly looking forward to having fruitful discussion with Bangladeshi importers and manufacturers of garment. Dynamic leadership of Excellency Mr. Veena Sikri, High Commissioner of India, Mr. D.N. Srivastava, Minister of Economic and Commercial, and Mr. M.A. Awal for having extended their wholehearted cooperation in organizing this event. I would like to once again thank the Republic of Bangladesh for having agreed to grace this occasion as a chief guest. We do appreciate your presence here today, sir, which has given us tremendous hope and confidence in our endeavors to promote bilateral trade between our two countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Petroleum. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request the High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, Her Excellency Ms. Veena Sikri.
Executive Director, Texprocil, Mr. Srivastava, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure to participate in the inaugural ceremony of the Indian Cotton, Yarn and Fabric Show 2006, organized by Texprocil in Dhaka. I'm very glad that this is the first occasion it's being done. As they say, better late than never. The Cotton, Yarn and Fabric Show 2006 showcases the latest trends and designs in the cotton textile sector. Texprocil has brought to Bangladesh some of the renowned manufacturers and exporters of the Indian cotton textile industry. I feel sure that the Bangladesh textile industry and ready-made garments industry will make full use of this opportunity to strengthen their linkages with the Indian textile industry in order that India and Bangladesh may together face and overcome the growing challenges of competitiveness, modernization and marketing that the global textile industry demands from all of us. The Indian textile industry is amongst the largest segments of the Indian economy, accounting for over 14% of our industry production, 9% of our GDP, and providing employment to around 35 million people, the largest sector in terms of employment after the agriculture sector. The sector has also earned the distinction of being the highest foreign exchange earner for our country, accounting for around 16% of India's export earnings. This industry has witnessed a phenomenal growth during the last decade and a half in terms of spinach, yarn production, output of cloth and exports of fabrics and made-ups. We are proud that India is today the world's second largest exporter of cotton textiles, the third largest producer of cotton, the second largest supplier of home textiles, the fourth largest producer of staple fiber, and the second largest producer of filament yarn. Ready-made garment earlier this year, this was done only partially for 100% export-oriented units. Our exporters have also noticed that there is substantially increased paperwork in effecting imports of yarn into Bangladesh through the land route. We hope that these difficulties will soon be ameliorated and the ban on import of yarn through the land route will soon be fully lifted. In fact, the government of India is waiting for the complete lifting of the ban on import of yarn through the land route before it can notify the TRQ. And once the TRQ is notified, it would lead to a substantial increase of exports from Bangladesh to India and would help in reducing the adverse trade balance in our bilateral trade. India is keenly aware of Bangladesh's concerns over the huge in enabling safer, faster and smoother flow of trade by making better use of all available modes of transport, encouraging containerization in our bilateral trade. I thank the two chambers, FPCCI and FICCI, for their positive approach in the matter. Indeed, Dhaka is a venue for the exhibition. In particular, I would like to thank His Excellency, the Honorable Commerce Minister of Bangladesh, for the inaugural ceremony. I'm sure that this exhibition will be a great success in bringing the textile industries of India and Bangladesh together, as well as bringing together our dynamic business communities in the spirit of trust, mutual benefit and friendship. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now humbly request the Minister of Commerce of the Government of the People.
Excellency High Commissioner Mrs. Bina Sikri, Chairman Texprocil Mr. Patodia, Executive Director Texprocil, Economic Minister, Indian High Commission, for having the opportunity to join this distinguished gathering for the inaugural ceremony of the Indian Cotton, Fabric and Yarn Show 2006, jointly organized by the Cotton Textiles Export Promotion Council of India and the Indian High Commission in Bangladesh. The garment sector also contributed significantly to the country's GDP. And the fate of this sector is linked with the sourcing pattern of raw material that may impact under tremendous pressure in terms of maintaining quality at lower prices, with shorter lead time available for executing the export orders. Since India is our next door neighbor, she is naturally in an advantageous position for supplying fabrics, yarn and other accessories for the export-oriented RMG industries of Bangladesh. An exhibition like this one would provide the Bangladesh RMG producers an opportunity to compare price and quantity of required items and thus help in making their sourcing decisions. Through organizing exhibitions like this one, mutual cooperation between the exporters and producers of the two countries would be further consolidated and developed. India is one of our biggest trading partners. India-Bangladesh trade volume stood at about $2,200 million in the year 2004 and 5. With the implementation of SAFTA and BIMSTEC FTA, the trade volume is expected to increase of about $1,886 million. And we worry that this is growing over the years. The existing tariff and non-tariff barriers need to be abolished for the greater interest of enhanced trade, particularly for exports from Bangladesh. Experts are suggesting that the recently enforced SAFTA deal can only allow Indian investors to establish factories here so that they can avail the use of our cheap labor as well as all preferential treatment applicable for the products from LDCs in the developed country markets. Once again, I would like to thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, organizers for arranging such an important exhibition. And ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure now to declare open the Indian Cotton, Fabric and Yarn Show 2006.
Bangladesh, Mufti Ahmed Sahab, High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, and Sri Lian Srivastav, Minister of Economic and Commercial, and his staff in our High Commission for organizing this event. The High Commission has gone out of its way to assist the Council and plan and execute this event, the success of which is in large measure on account of their hands-on support. We are also thankful to Mr. Tipu Munshi, President BGMEA, and Mr. Fazlul Haq, President BKMEA, for interacting closely with the Council and sensitizing their members to visit the show. We are also thankful to Mr. Awad, President BTMA, for his presence here today. We are also grateful to CEMS, the event organizers, who have earned a reputation for professional conduct and skillful organization of events and shows, not only in Bangladesh, but also across the border in India. Last but not the least, I am also thankful to all the participants who enthusiastically agreed to participate in this event and are present here today. I am sure that during the 3 days of their stay in Dhaka, they will not only build on their old contacts, but also make new ones, so that trade in overall terms between India and Bangladesh and the region at large is promoted in a big way. Judging by the response received from the participants, and support extended by the BGMEA, BKMEA and PTMA, the Council would like to make this an annual event so as to provide opportunities to all stakeholders in the textile and clothing sectors in India and Bangladesh to interact with each other for mutual benefit. Finally, I'm also grateful to the press and media in Bangladesh and in India for giving wide coverage to this event. Thank you.
Mr. V. Batolia to do the honor. Next gift to be presented to Vastav, Minister of Economic and Commercial, High Commissioner of India, Dhaka. Thank you.
Sanitary care, sir.
Where is your factory? It's
Sanitary.
the basic raw material is grown in India.
Yes, it's cotton.
Cotton. Don't have to import. Viscose also is there.
This is my gift.
Display.
By our overseas manufacturer.
What is your factory?
Two are in Kerala, one in Tamil Nadu.
Excuse me.
Your cotton.
This is from Indian machines. We also use Subin, which is the best Indian. These are all our trademarks.
ETM stands for what?
Actually, originally the making stand for Jati Narayan Swami. We took over the company. We kept the same name within China.
Manufacturer yard. Yes. Thank you. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Try for grapes also.
Years old, but it has been fully modernized. All the machineries.
66 years, more than 60 years. Very well done. Congratulations. You export this also?
ভাই পিছনে যান না
Will attract maximum visitors.
এই যে মাথা শুন
Not enough stocks.
You must try this one. This is amla, you know. Dried amla. Try one.
Just
Very
one.
nice.
You export these also? No.
No, sir.
Panchmeva is made in Jodhpur.
No, in Pali.
In Pali, you try it.
Yeah.
Very nice.
This is very good nutrition. Nutrition value is very good.
It is 300 times more than grapes.
Yeah.
Will you look at it? Factory. Coimbatore.
Very nice. We're one of the largest.
All in the factory.
তুলে দেখেন এখান থেকে নিয়ে দেখেন
This is the style these days, great jeans. I wonder why this pattern style.
That is the plastic. Have a look at the garments. What are the
This style.
yeah, this is the style. Like the more you tear it off, that's yes,
This one I fail to understand. The old people. Maybe my son will appreciate.
Your son will understand this. Not less than about $2 for this tool.
Use sandpaper.
Northern part of India. The High Commissioner, he has already given all that instructions. Probably manage. Very nice. Yes, very well. Very good.
You must be having a retail shop.
I have a retail shop also. I do. Bombay. Bombay is a
So then organic cotton. Is this organic cotton?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
It's organic. It's organic cotton.
that's also organic.
Oh my God, organic bed sheets. Very fine. Organic means no pesticides.
We are already exporting cotton now. From India, our market share is almost 10%.
Like
We are starting
Big yarn so far.
yarn raw cotton. Raw cotton. So now Bangladesh also is doing raw
ভাই সামনে নেওয়া আরো পিছনে এখন তাহলে পুরোটা
officials are not selling. Traffic Kumar is selling. He looks after metro.
স্যার বোর্ড সহ সম্পূর্ণ বোর্ডটা আছে
They started before and I
স্যান্ডেল লইছে
Useful to spend some quality time trying to discuss some of the issues, carrying business over into a room, which will be followed by some cocktails and dinner. So we have lined up a small presentation which we will make on behalf of the Cotton Textile Export Promotion Council, and followed by some discussion which can take place. I now invite our chairman,
on the occasion of the first ever Indian cotton fabric show organized by the Cotton Textile Export Promotion Council, popularly known as Texprocil, associations, and especially I would like to welcome Mr. Haq, Mr. Hawal, Mr. Jamaluddin, and Mr. Dewan Saib, Dewan Sultan Avan, and many other dignitaries present here. I would also like to thank the support which is given by all the associations for our mutual benefit, and to find ways of how India and Bangladesh like to welcome you and thank you for your presence. May I now request Mr. Siddharth Raghuval, Executive Director, to make his PowerPoint presentation on the Indian textile industry and the events which is being organized. Thank you very much.
The areas of cooperation, what we can perhaps think of in terms of building on our relationships. Next, please. Next. Well, I think this is just to put together on a slide India's position in the world textile economy. The idea is just not to intimidate people here in the room, but to just give you the facts. Third largest producer of raw cotton, second largest producer of cellulosic fiber yarn, second largest producer of cotton yarn, largest producer of jute, second largest producer of silk, and fifth largest producer of synthetic fiber and yarn. Next, please. The importance of the textile industry to India, just like the textile industry is of importance to the Bangladesh economy, even in the Indian economy as of today, the textile industry continues to be a crucial sector. Economic indicator, it accounts for 4% of GDP, it accounts for 16% of exports, it accounts for 12% of the invested capital, it accounts for 13% of the gross output, it accounts for 13% of the number of factories which are there in India, and employment about 21%, and it's the second largest employment provided after agriculture. So it's a crucial sector as far as the Indian economy is concerned. Next, please. Of interest to people here, we're looking at the market size of the Indian textile and clothing industry. It's currently estimated at $46 billion, out of which exports are valued at about 16 billion, which is 35%. The domestic market is about 30 billion, which comprises about $10 billion of textiles and about $20 billion of the clothing. On the export side, textiles account for 7.8 billion and clothing about 8.2 billion, out of which, from the textiles, cotton textile amounts to $4 billion. The idea of putting this together is to show that it's not only exports anymore that we talk about in Indian textile economy, but we are also looking at the domestic market, which is growing equally rapidly. That's where bilateral trade could perhaps be of use to all of us. Next, please. The feature of the domestic trade, as we quickly pointed out, $30 billion. It is growing at a current rate of 15%. Apparel constitute 2/3 of that market, about $20 billion. And in that also the share of branded products is increasing. It has increased from 21% in 2003 to about 24% in 2005. Tailor-made clothing, which used to be the hallmark of clothing in the earlier days, is declining from 29% to 24% in the year 2005. If you look at the market segment of the apparel sector, which will be of interest here, men's wear accounts for 40%, women's wear about 35%, and kids wear about 25%. And the growth rate registered In the year 2005 over 2004, for menswear it's registering a growth of 8%, women's wear are growing by about 17%, and kids wear, which is a highly specialized market segment, is growing by 25%. Next please. Now this is a vision document which the industry has set for itself. We had some discussion in the afternoon about the achievability of this, where the industry believes that it can reach a size of $85 billion by 2010. Export target is about $40 billion from the current level of $17 billion. Raise the market share from 3.4% currently that we have to about 6% in the global textile and clothing trade. The industry hopes to create about 12 million additional jobs, increase the per capita consumption, which is again very crucial from production point of view, from about 19 meters to about 32 meters, and attract about $32 billion worth of investments for modernization and capacity building. This is a stiff target, but it's a vision. Like all visions, it must be very ambitious. Next please. Now this is how this project is supports of apparel garments. We're growing at almost 20+%. Next please. Next please. Now this is a quick look at ourselves, that is the Texprocil. The profile of the council, this is the first export promotion council set up in independent India in 1954. We celebrated our golden jubilee in the year 2004. It's the first initiative in what is called the public-private partnership. The organization is totally autonomous. The government is represented on the board, and government and the industry work close together in trying to achieve the objectives which have been set both by the policy level by the government and at the industry level by the trade. Collectively represent, we have about 5,000 manufacturers and trading houses who specialize in cotton textiles, and we are catering to participate in practically all the leading international fairs in the world showcasing Indian cotton textiles and also which have something to do with the cotton textile industry. Publish promotional literature on markets and products. We service trade inquiries. We have been actively representing the industry in trade negotiations in WTO and other forums, and we have been very closely associated with the government on this aspect. And we have been seeking strategic partnerships with industry and trade representatives in overseas markets. And in this connection, I will point out that we have entered into an MOU with the CNTAC, the Chinese National Textile Apparel and Council, which is the leading body in China, to promote mutual trade. We have also recently entered into an MOU with the government of Kazakhstan, where we would like to promote the mutual trade between Kazakhstan and the Indian exporters. Next please. Next please. Next. Now this is a slide which we put together especially for this occasion, just to give you an idea of where both India and Bangladesh are in world trade. If you see the Indian textile and clothing trade, we have historically a presence in the textile industry, hence we have a larger market share of 3.4%. Our CAGR between 2000 and 2005 is about 7%. We rank second in the EU and the fourth rank in the US, and our from $13.5 billion in 2004 to about 17 billion in 2000, a growth rate of about 10%. Bangladesh, which is a relatively new, gaining rapid, is about 0.03, about 6% growth in 2005. It increased its export from $5.8 billion to about $7 billion, which is about 20%. Third rank in EU and ninth rank in the US. But if you look at this is textile and clothing together, but if you look at the apparel trade, the share of Bangladesh is higher than India's share. It ranks higher in EU with an export of about $4.3 billion. Again, India exports of about $4 billion. And in the case of US, the growth rate both of India and Bangladesh is plus 20%. Now this is a quick slide of what figures we should put together in terms of the post-quota scenario. Everybody was interested in how we would all grow in a post-quota scenario. We find that in the EU, the imports have grown by 21%. China, of course, is a well-known story, about 27%. India grew from a base of 52%, and Bangladesh is growing at about 27%. In the US, even though imports have declined by about 2%, China 46% share, India ranked second with about 10.68, and the other countries are Hong Kong, Pakistan, and Korea, and Thailand, US. Next please. Next please. Next. Now the annual level of exports is cotton textiles, since we represent cotton textile, so we can't help but show a slide on our performance. Annual level of exports is about $4 billion. Yarns are about 1.15 billion. Fabrics is about $85 million. And home textile, which is the fastest growing industry in India today. It has gone from a share of about 28% in about 1998 to almost 50% of our exports. And we rank number 2 in world in the cotton textile exports. This trade, as you could see that India's imports from Bangladesh are increasing. It was $89 million in 2003-04. It increased to $144 million in 04-05. And is expected to increase to about 210 of our yarn manufacturers, because they see market here. Then fabrics, which is steadily declined over a period of time. Then mainly exports, which is finished articles, which is matter of less export. About $208 million of exports is taking place from India into Bangladesh. Next please. Hope to promote joint ventures in the textile sector in both the countries, not only in India but also encourage Indian companies to come and invest in Bangladesh. And we would also like to have a mechanism whereby we can exchange trade information on the textile and clothing sector to have a better understanding of the positions on both sides. After the presentation, we could have some questions. If anybody would like to make any comments, he is invited to make them.
That's okay.
No doubt, these targets are ambitious. But when you make targets, you have to reach for the moon. You have to reach for the skies. So unless you make an ambitious target, you will never have the will to. And as we discussed in the afternoon in your office, even if the barrel trade from 200 billion goes to 350, which is almost 75% more, so we are currently at
because if you wanted to increase your share of the world market, then you have to have industries. And how many industries have planned for spinning, weaving, dyeing, finishing, textile, other? Have you made a master plan for this? Because 2010 is not so far. Then if you have not any this master plan to grow this industry, then if you have got a target, then it is very difficult to reach to this target.
You're right, we have made a vision document which clearly outlined we are also in our government. And as far as the barrel trade is concerned, one of the most important things is we must have flexible labor laws. I mean, everybody talks about China, but we all know sitting in this room that China has no labor laws. I mean, it's supposed to be a communist country, but the workers have no rights there. But we are a democratic country. The workers have a right. We have to protect their rights. So we are still hoping that some kind of flexibility will come and more investment will go. But definitely a lot of investment is going on in right from spinning, weaving, processing, and including garmenting. All the major garmenting groups, you must have seen in the newsletters or emails or internet, that all the major garment makers, even if, I would say that even if you achieve 80 or 90%, I think it's worth it.
I have a question. The first thing is that if I talk about cotton yarn, for example, which we are buying from India, apart from our local suppliers, which are always sitting there, me. But in true sense, you don't have the competitor in Bangladesh, other than the local suppliers. Because we normally don't think to buy from any other country than India. A few percentage is coming only from Pakistan. That's not very small, not significant at all. So your market here in Bangladesh is guaranteed. So I don't think there is so much need to have this kind of show to impress your buyers, because we are already impressed and we have no other better choice in true sense other than the local suppliers. My question is that your market is guaranteed. How can we ensure our market in Indian product? What support can Texprocil provide to the prospective exporter from Bangladesh? That is one. And What is the prospect of taking on this?
Well, we have been talking to our friends, Mr. Awal and Mr. Matin Chaudhary also came last year. He made a presentation and he exhorted the Indian side to invest in Bangladesh. But I think yes, you have to create the right conducive atmosphere for investment. Ultimately, as I was explaining this afternoon, because of the quota dismantling and trust given to the textile sector by the last 2 years fiscal policy changes where the excise duty regime has been totally abolished. We have such a lot of backlog vis-a-vis China, and I think all the Indian textile manufacturing